Are we live? Yeah, we're recording now. Okay, we're going to finish talking about the Nazis. Okay, we watched that little propaganda film yesterday. You did your assignment. Thank you for those of you who handed it in. If you didn't hand it in, you get a big fat goose egg. If you weren't here yesterday, it's exempted. Right? I don't think you were here yesterday, so you're good. I don't think you were here either, so you're okay. Okay, anyways, some more things that Hitler did that went against. Again, we are looking at rejections of liberalism. So one of the laws that Hitler put into place is called the Nuremberg laws. Just walk behind the camera because we're okay. The Nuremberg laws, so the denaturalization laws, they passed this in 1935. They were used as a basis for racial discrimination against Jewish people. So again, this is part of a fascist ideology where they start to specify a particular ethnic group or particular group to attack, right? They want a scapegoat. They want everyone to focus their problems on that, to rally people behind that. Okay, and Hitler chose to do this to the Jews for a variety of reasons, not all of which are clear. But again, this is a rejection of liberalism because they are choosing to treat a certain part of the population differently and poorly in this case. Some of the things they did, so some of the laws were marriages between Jews and citizens of German or kindred blood, so like German blood, are forbidden. Marriages concluded in defiance of this law are void, even if for the purpose of evading this law they were concluded abroad. So let's say you just went to Sweden, you married someone who was Jewish, you came back to live in Germany. They have now in their legal system made that void, so your marriage is not real. To the extent this second point is kind of funny. So extramarital intercourse between Jews and subjects of the state of Germany or related blood is forbidden. So they basically banned having sex with Jews. That's what that law states. Okay, I don't know exactly how they police that, but okay, Jews are forbidden to display the Reich and national flag or the national colors. So again, all of this is rejecting liberalism, the rule of law, equality for citizens. And then again, Hitler's use of violence here. The Night of Broken Glass on November 9th, 1938, a massive coordinated attack on the Jews occurred through the German Reich. There's mob violence. The SS and SA, which are Hitler's Nazi party paramilitaries, are getting involved. They are terrorizing Jewish people. They're attacking them. I believe some people, I don't know how many died. I don't know if I have that on here. 25,000 Jewish men were sent to concentration camps. So again, just a fundamental rejection of liberalism. So they were put into concentration camps for the sole reason that they're Jews.
Hey, Mr. Kawaja,
yes.
Was there, did the German people back then, the German normal, the normal German people, did they, were some of them against Jews or pro, or
so at that time in Germany, there was a lot of anti-Semitic, let's say, belief or activity. Anti-Semitic is anti-Jewish. Well, actually, we're not going to get into that. So there was already a lot of anti-Jewish propaganda, hatred in general. Also, for whatever reason, for a variety of reasons, Jews have just been persecuted in history, like time and time again.
Really?
Yeah. So they've just been pushed around through Europe for a while. That's part of why Israel was created, right? The Jewish state. So the Jews were kind of pushed around and bullied through Europe for the last like couple hundred years. But the Jews that ended up in a bit of Russia, Germany, kind of this Eastern Europe, at that time period, very unfortunately ended up under Hitler's thumb. Like it says, 25,000 people were sent to concentration camps, and this is just based off this Night of Broken Glass. You know, eventually all of the Jewish people in that area who did not escape were put under the thumb of Hitler's belief system.
Okay, so Israel is still holy land, right?
Israel is considered holy to many groups of people. So we just finished our Stations of the Cross. Do you need to go to the washroom?
No, I have a question.
Okay. So Israel is holy to Christians because Jesus existed there and was crucified there. It's holy to Jews because That's where the Jewish scripture says that their holy land exists, that God would free them from Egypt, take them out from Pharaoh's thumb, right? Because they've been persecuted for 4,000 years more or less, to what is now called Israel. Yeah, that's why they're there. Does that answer your questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here.
I asked this before, but I didn't get a good answer. But I asked a teacher once.
To me or?
No, different. Someone different.
With me?
No, I'm not saying.
We're not naming names.
Yeah. I asked this person, why did Hitler hate Jews so much? And then that person said nobody knows. Is that true? Like, nobody knows?
I think it was because he was gay.
Not on the camera, man.
I read that some shit.
Because you think like Hitler was gay.
No. He thought
Did you
the
say
Jews
gay?
was gay or some shit?
Oh.
Some shit I read.
Okay,
And
so
he goes
part of the reason is, like I was telling him earlier, there was already a lot of anti-Jewish beliefs in Germany. So many people didn't like Jews to begin with. And I don't know the full extent of it, but it might have actually been normal to not like Jews to some extent in Germany. Why did Hitler specifically target the Jews? I'm recording, by the way, just so you're aware, in case you start blurbing something. Why did Hitler hate Jews specifically? I don't know. Some people have these theories, like he was denied art school, like a Jewish art school, and maybe that led to it. He was also homeless. He didn't have a good relationship with his father. Like he was not necessarily a mentally healthy person, right? Why did he pick the Jews specifically? The Jewish people were also very successful financially at that time period. So let's say the entire country is hurting, particularly German people. The Jewish people were not hurting nearly as bad, right? Maybe not all of them, right? So it was very easy in that regard to just say, okay, well, we're going to blame this group of financially successful people, and we're going to say that like they're hoarding money. Jews at that time, particularly in Germany, many of them were known as money lenders, so they had a lot of money and resources, and it was just easy to say like, hey, let's point the finger at someone. The Jews are doing well, let's point the finger at them. Like this has been done in history through time and time again, right? And then, you can go into conspiracy land, and there's a lot of wild conspiracies out there for why Hitler, didn't, or particularly chose the Jews. One of the theories my friend told me was that potentially Hitler himself was like a bastard child of a Jew, of a very powerful Jew, and this was all a plot, but this is not proven, right? Obviously you'd have to like go in and talk to those people at that time and know what was going on. So it's hard to know in that regard, but again, key focus is there was already a lot of anti-Semitic sentiments in there. They wanted to blame the downfall of Germany on someone, and Hitler's personal life growing up was not that great. So, it's very easy for him to be psychopathic, I guess.
Do you have any siblings, Hitler?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe he actually has children and grandchildren who have been like hidden from history because,
Right, yeah.
you wouldn't want your neighbor, like imagine finding out your neighbor is Hitler's grandson.
That'd be cool.
I mean, I'd chat with him. It'd be interesting in that regard. Like, what do you think about what your granddaddy did? But, some people might, that the house might burn down mysteriously like the Reichstag. So there's that. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It'd be good to do more research, right? Like I haven't done that much research on that, but I think it's very logical for him to choose the Jews, just given the anti-Semitism at the time. Yeah, give another question.
How is it easy? How easy it is to point fingers, and guys, how easy it is to point fingers, and two, who is really to blame for Germany's downfall?
Germany's down. Like, what do you mean? Like losing the war or the Treaty of Versailles?
During the recession thingy that.
Well, the recession was out of their control, right? Like they can't control the global economy, but obviously the Treaty of Versailles put a lot of the blame on Germany. So there are some people who say that France wanted Germany to suffer after the war because they took the Versailles, Alsace. There's a particular area, I can't remember the name of it right now. There's a particular territory that they took, the French. Right, they also wanted Germany to pay a lot of reparations towards these countries So the Treaty of Versailles puts Germany into a really unfortunate situation, right? The German people didn't want their government to sign that treaty. To an extent, they were ready to continue fighting over, the war that they got dragged into, simply because they didn't want to accepting all the blame. Right? So it's hard to say exactly what led to their downfall. Militarily, again, World War I was a stalemate. Like, no one clearly won or lost. It was a war of attrition.
I have a phone call coming.
Okay, just step outside the door.
So pretty much everybody lost because everyone lost because there's like damage everywhere.
Yeah, so a war of attrition is where you just lose as many lives, resources, destruction. It's just destruction, really. Right? There's no clear winner.
And so how is it really this easy to point fingers?
Oh, it's very easy. It's so easy, man. If you were paying attention during the pandemic, so in Quebec, the sentiment from the government was very like, hey, the reason you're being locked into your house is because this 10% of the population won't get vaccinated. They're the reason why the hospitals are full. Like, we literally just witnessed this happen in the last few years. People want to say, oh, well, it's not that extreme, but again, Hitler didn't start by saying, let's put Jews in concentration camps, because obviously no one would accept that. He simply started by just saying, and the video I showed, there's literally a video of Trudeau. He went on a French talk show where he was asking, like, should we tolerate these people who are unvaccinated? Called them racist, misogynistic, sexist. Like, it's very easy to point the finger and scapegoat a person. Like, you look at Rwanda, right? Same thing. They just like the Hutus, which is the majority group, but they were the ones who were dominated by the Tutsis and the colonial power. As soon as the colonial power left, they're like, well, you guys are to blame. We're just going to slaughter you all. They killed 800,000 people in like a few weeks or a few months, not even. Like, it's very easy to point the finger. People do it all the time in their personal lives. Right? Like, most people aren't willing to take accountability for their own actions and for their own problems and how they got to the situation they are in life. So we do it on a personal level very easily, unconsciously most of the time. They call it a victim mindset. It's like, instead of saying like, oh, well, I'm responsible for my lack of success, it's blaming, oh, well, the government, the system, racism, sexism, whatever it is. Like, well, just work harder. Like, it's very easy to point the finger. It's almost natural for people to do that.
Yeah, me neither. And also, so basically, inflation and money stuff is out of our control, right?
No, inflation is primarily caused by the government printing money that isn't real. There's no value associated to it, so there's no increase of production, right? So let's say, like, if we started, so again, the Canadian government right now is very anti-oil production, right? Like, we didn't sign through the pipelines, and they want to continue to reduce emissions in this country, or they're taxing emissions. So again, oil has its pros and cons, right? Sure, the con is that it releases emission, but again, oil products, like, electricity is an oil product. So is heat. All your clothes, mostly, unless it's cotton or some sort of natural fiber. But even then, taking care of the field, like, you need machines that run on oil and gas, right, to heat your home, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if you increase the production of your natural resources and sell them, your economy has more value. Your dollar has more value. It goes up. But if you just print money, like, again, if I just rip a piece of paper off these notes and put 100 on it and ask to buy your glasses, like, just because I put 100 on it doesn't mean it actually has value. But if I pulled a gold coin out of my pocket and said, would you trade your glasses for this real, authentic gold coin? The gold has a value, right? So inflation is mostly, like, again, more classical economists say this, inflation is primarily caused by governments printing money, right? So again, it comes back to, if I gave everybody a gold medal, what does that gold medal mean? What value does it have? Like, none, right? Unless it's solid gold, which, I don't have that much gold. Sorry, kids. Yes, you may. Okay. We'll move on. Thank you. Those questions were really good. I enjoyed that. Again, just building on the isolation and targeting of the Jews, they also built ghettos for them. These ghettos are essentially just places to live, pretty much like concentration camps. There's very minimal, let's say, infrastructure given to them. It's not like they were sent to hotels, 5-star hotels. They didn't send them to Disneyland. They actually incinerated most of the people that came through these concentration camps. For those of you who don't know, incinerating means like you essentially like burning, like you just getting rid of, I guess. Okay. So this first point here, the Warsaw Ghetto. So the ghetto was first established in 1940 when its estimated population was 440,000, but as people were deported to concentration camps, the population decreased to about 70,000. So again, they took about 300,000 people and just put them into concentration camps. Viktor Frankl writes about this in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, but most of the women and children were just incinerated off the bat because they couldn't work the same as the men did. And quite frankly, Hitler didn't even put the men to work. They kind of just, they were mostly just put there to suffer. Like Hitler didn't really necessarily employ them into the war effort. He was just trying to cause as much damage and carnage to Jews as possible, and to people really, because like what, 40 million people died in World War II. Okay, so here's just a little infographic I got from Wikipedia a while ago. A lot of people aren't aware of how many other people died as part of the Holocaust. So there was about 5 to 6 million Jews, but there was, about 5.5 million Soviet civilians that were also killed during this process. You also have prisoners of war, Soviet prisoners of war. So again, that's 2 to 3 million people. Polish people got killed, the Serbians. 270,000 disabled people. They killed Freemasons, which is a secret society. They killed homosexuals as well. They even got the Jehovah's Witnesses. So, like most people just focus on this part, like, oh, the Holocaust was, 6 million Jews, but there's a lot more people that were involved in this tragedy that just don't get talked about for a variety of reasons. Mostly we don't really focus on the Soviets and the communists and how much damage was done to them. Which, might be part of the reason why many people leave high school and think that, oh, well, communism wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't done poorly. They leave with this weird mindset. But in reality, like, millions of Soviet communist Russians died. They were just thrown, like, they were just used as meat to the grinder here. For this war conflict, many, and this doesn't necessarily relate to the Holocaust, but many Russian civilians, like we talked about, died in this conflict between communism and, let's just say not communism for the time being. Okay. So again, Hitler's fascism, he creates his own form, which is not clear exactly. I think this is more of the textbook stuff, but the Nazi ideology here, and you can't have grade 9s and high school kids together.
We were once grade 9.
Okay. Anyways, his techniques included propaganda, youth movements, eliminating opposition, use of terror and force, scapegoating. Again, all of this is very similar to what the communists do as well. It's nothing unique to what the Nazis did. They didn't necessarily even do it the best. Actually, that might not be true. Their propaganda was apparently top tier. And the rejection of liberalism fundamentally is that Hitler is choosing who did and didn't get to participate in various liberal values. His goal was to make Germany as strong as possible. Additionally, you can reverse engineer that one of his goals was to cause as much carnage as possible.
We really can't kick.
Just yell at them. Please. Boys, what is the issue? I'm looking at you, Mishak. Looking behind you. There's no one behind you. That's a poster. Those people aren't real. It's a picture.
Hey, that could be.
It could have, but he said no. You gotta live with that. Okay? There was a lot of limiting people's freedoms. Man, it's so bad. I looked over, I couldn't tell who it was. Just the contrast, man, the contrast.
This guy
They strayed from the values of liberalism. If you're not serving the state, you do not have a role to play in the fascist state. You know, they just got rid of you. Some of the techniques for dictatorships, we're not going to look too closely into this. Okay, so here, which dictator killed the most people? So again, you know, it's important to ask the question, you know, why do we learn about Hitler so much? And there's some obvious reasons, there's some less obvious reasons, but you know, if you look at this chart, like Hitler's not nowhere near the top of this list in terms of deaths caused by their policies. At the top is actually Mao Zedong, who is the communist dictator of China. You know, he's responsible for killing. His policies are responsible for the starvation of nearly 60 million people.
Is Marcos there too, or no?
I do not see him.
Oh well.
It means he didn't kill more than 1 million people. I don't know.
Well, that's like around 1,000, I think.
All those are rookie numbers, man. The smallest guy here killed 1.1 million.
Really? Wow.
Thousands. Those are rookie numbers.
But Marcos is still a dictator, right?
I don't know much about this individual. Okay, and then we have Joseph Stalin as well. Again, communist. You know, 23 million. I believe Pol Pot was also communist, and so his 1.7 million people that he killed were people of his own.
He
Right,
was
so-
the evilest out of everybody.
I've heard that he was apparently really bad.
He killed people that wear glasses and shit. Like his shit was fucked.
Yeah, so it's just like whatever random reason, because again, they have all the power. They can just do whatever. Right? Like Stalin killed 10 million Ukrainians because he thought they were holding out on him. They're not giving us enough food. Okay, well, let's starve them. Like, we won't give them food. Terrible. Right? But how does that happen? Is because, well, again, the whole communist idea, their rejection of liberalism is that instead of using democracy to get what you want, you just have a violent revolution. It's like, you know, you just kill the teacher and then you start teaching yourselves. See how that goes through. Same with Mao. Mao is especially sneaky, you know, so he gets educated in the West. As soon as his communists take over the government, he puts in a law that says, well, you shouldn't read. You know, if you read the wrong things, it'll give you the wrong ideas. So he basically bans people from the same information that he had access to that led him to his revolution. And then additionally, I don't know if Stalin did this, but I know Hitler did this. They both, so Mao and Hitler, you know, they basically said they had a really nice photo taken of them, and everyone had to have it in their house. Yeah, so my friend who I interviewed, Tony, he was saying that, you know, there's a day where his grandma had to go to the city center to get a photo of Mao to put into their house. But they didn't dictate where you could put it, so I think he said his grandma in protest like put it like on her door, so every time the door was open you never see the photo, right? But you still had that, right? And it's interesting because people resist and respond to these situations in their own unique way, right? Especially when you force them, right? So for Stalin, many of the farmers who disagreed with the, you know, redistribution, which is just theft in that sense, of their land, many of them decided, you know what, rather than give it to this dictator, we'll just kill the animals and we'll destroy the crop. Like many of them decided that, rather than redistributing it. You know, if you're gonna lose in the end anyways, it's like, well, we both might as well lose, right? Like you're not gonna do anything productive with it anyways. The land that got redistributed to the lower farming classes eventually was used too poorly. Like the best farmers got killed or sent to Gulag concentration camps, right? Leopold of Belgium, he's an old timer, so I believe this is one of the emperors of Japan. He may have been in charge during World War II. I don't know exactly. Kim Il-sung as well, so he's North Korea. So this is, again, North Korea also has a communist dictatorship, right? That's why his son Kim Jong-un is in charge. That's why he's the only fat guy in North Korea, right? Because clearly he's not the one who's suffering at the hands of his own policies, right?
Hold on. How many does the big guy killed? The one on the right?
This guy?
Yes.
Mao Zedong. So it says 78 million here. I've heard
78.
estimates. Yeah, 78 million. They're all Chinese, right? They're all died from his policies. I've heard up to 60 million. There's a book called Tombstone. It's really good apparently. Joseph Stalin says 23 million. Adolf Hitler says 17 million. So again, it's not even in the similar ballpark, right?
You know about King Leopold or whatever his name is?
Yeah, I believe he was the guy behind the when they split up Africa. I
Yeah,
believe
they
that
cut
was
off
him.
all the kids' hands and shit. How come he's not on the list? Though?
Oh, he's right there.
Oh, that's him?
Yeah, Leopold II of Belgium, 15 million, which is crazy.
50 million in Africa?
I would assume.
He chopped off their hands and make their parents like take
Oh, yeah,
pictures of the kids' hands like this. That's so
It's crazy. Okay, we'll watch this video on Mao.